Hi, this is eBodyNX from the Candid Frame. I've been really enjoying taking a look at the pictures. I've been having about between a dozen to 2 dozen people add to the Flickr community here every week, and the work that I'm seeing is really inspiring me. Just giving me the itch to get out there and just make more and more photographs. It's amazing the talent that's out there. Even though many of these people are not professional photographers, they really are making some really interesting and exciting photographs. So if you haven't been contributing, please do. It doesn't cost you a dime. Just ask to be added to the group. I'll say yes, and then you can start sharing your photographs with the community here. Now, I was taking a look at the images this morning, and what I usually do is I just kind of get on the computer and I start browsing through the photographs, and usually an idea or a theme will pop into my head. But today I decided to do something different because we have a photographer here who submitted a set of images that really reminded me about one of the aspects of photography that I really like to practice, which is the idea of a photo story or a photo essay. If you go to my website at eBodyNX.net, you'll see in my project section a little sort of photo essay that I did of some Dominicans playing dominoes back in my dad's hometown. And, while I was there, a group of family friends would normally get together to play dominoes every day, and I wanted to try my hand at it, and I got schooled terribly. I just humiliated myself by even trying to play. These guys play every day, and they're really, really good at reading each other, their partner's hand, and all this stuff. And I was just way out of my league. So instead, I just decided to pick up the camera and start taking pictures. And then I realized that I had a little bit of a sort of a photo story here, and I used all these ideas that I have in terms of how do I use my compositional skills, my ability to juxtapose different elements against another, all this knowledge that I have, not only in terms of making the individual photograph, but creating a series of images that helps, hopefully, tell a story. So I was going through the website, and I looked at the work of Eric Gitonga here. His Flickr name is Gimba. And I commented on one of his images in the last video. And he created a series of images on a person here who repairs car distributors. And I was looking at these individual images, and it just struck me that this was a great opportunity to talk about what can happen when we dedicate ourselves to a singular subject for a period of time. Whether it's a couple of minutes, hours, or even days, focusing on one subject or one activity provides us as photographers a wonderful chance to use everything that we've learned in terms of lens choice, exposure, contrast, juxtaposition, all of those things to create a series of images that stand out not just for their own individual beauty, but for their ability to be able to tell a story and to reveal a person in a way that singular photograph wouldn't be able to. And so I want to talk to you in a way that may help explain it. So I went through the pictures here, and I thought about it, well, let me think of this as if I was doing a layout for a magazine where I was going to take all the images that Eric had provided me, and I would edit them down so that I could feel like I'm getting a really concise story of what's happening here. So if you're not familiar with this sort of thinking or this way of editing, just be a little patient, because I think it will make a little more sense as I go through it. So here, Eric has a variety of different images of the guy, his partner, and all these detail shots. So as a group, they're all really sort of good shots, but there's some repetition involved here. And so the impact of these images as a story hasn't happened yet, because right now they're just a collection of raw photographs. So there's no real flow. There's no real narrative. So I edit these images in sort of sequence. And the first shot which I always consider is sort of an establishing shot, a shot that not only captures the person, but also gives a sense of place of what we're involved in. So this is the closest thing that I got to a sort of an environmental portrait. You have the work table, you have the oil can, you have the various tools, you have something in his hand that you think you know what it might be. And this is a good starting point. I often like starting with a shot that is much wider, that gives me much greater context. Obviously, he's working on car distributors, so having a shot where I could see a car with the open hood and maybe other car parts strewn around the door or the yard or something along those lines that give me a better sense of where we are is always a good place to start. It's probably one of the first shots that I make before I start jumping into the really meaty details. So in this shot, you can see that he's working on something, but you really don't know exactly what it is in this shot. The clothing that this fellow here is wearing on the left gives you an indication of overalls, so he looks like he's some sort of mechanic. They both are, but what kind of mechanic? This thing that he's holding in his hand could actually be to anything. So in the next shot that I chose is him working underneath the hood, because almost immediately we know, oh, he works on cars. That piece, that component, whatever it is, even if you're not tech savvy, if you don't know that it's a distributor, you get that association that this is related to the car in some way. And by looking at the vehicle, you look at the battery, you look at the components that make up this engine, you're seeing that he's probably not working on the most modern car in the world. So again, you have another sense of place. The images look modern, so you know it's sort of a contemporary, but we know that we're in a location where this smaller, possibly older car is pretty prevalent, and that he makes his living by making these repairs. And we get our first real sense of him as the craftsman, the mechanic, the engineer who is at work. Well, the next shot I just want to jump in because into the mix, because this guy is all about his hands. So I was really looking for a graphic shot that represented, the details of his hands, but also the component that he's working on. And I thought this was a really wonderful, strong shot that really establishes that. Obviously, he has the benefit of his partner there that's helping him with this set of pliers to do something with this component here. But I love how the hands on both sides of the frame just lead us into this component right there. I think it stresses that, okay, this guy is a technician, but he's paying particular attention to this component. It's just not that he's repairing this entire car. He's involved with that, involving his skill on working on one singular thing. And it really it's sort of a really micro or macro view into this person's world. The light and the tones are great here. So that's an added benefit that the image is really good. I wanted to get a little more details of the component itself. This is a great shot of the distributor here, and I love the beauty of it, but I was going back and forth between this picture and the second one. I like the graphic nature of the shot. I love the lighting. I wouldn't have put this shot earlier because we would have no context for it, but by using this photo here, I've kind of established a relationship between this shot and that shot, so we know that it's a part of a car. So at this point, it's okay to jump into that small little detail because I'm revealing sort of the intricacy of the thing that he's working on. It has its small little details, its different little nuances that, this man is not just he's really paying attention to those small little details of this device that make it work and sort of hint at sort of the complexity that may lay ahead for him as he tries to repair it. Now, the other shot I liked was just because it isn't as detailed, but it had the screwdriver. So I just felt like it wasn't just a shot of the distributor. It included this little tool that sort of communicates the fact that this is a guy who is repairing it. I kind of go back and forth, but I kind of lean towards the previous image just because I kind of like it graphically. With the next shot, I decided to add another little detail about those small little components, because that distributor is made of these tiny individual parts. And I just thought that this was a really beautiful shot. I love the limited depth of field that it's inherent in there. And it really establishes the tone that it's not just this, this one sort of relatively large component, but it's these small little pieces that make it up, and that these little details are really, really critical for this person's work. I had this other shot in here, which may or may not be needed, but I kind of like this ash here, which may be a byproduct of the piece, or it might be from a cigarette, but I kind of lean towards the former. I think it's part of what this device does, and this is something that it creates as a result of its process or whatever it is. This might be a shot I might lose, because it doesn't really add a whole lot to the narrative. I think that the previous detail shots are more than adequate, but I put it in there anyway just because I like it. Now I want to start going back to him as the subject, because this is a story about this mechanic. It's not just a story about the individual pieces. So I wanted an image that got us back to him. But before leaping directly to him working on something, I wanted a photograph that would serve like a transition. And when I saw this oil can, I thought it was perfect, because we're moving back from all those detail shots of the part and all its individual components, and we're going back into the world of the technician, of the mechanic. And I like how we have this sharp object in the foreground, which is obviously an important tool of what he does, but we're also seeing him, and he's blurred, he's out of focus, but it serves as a way of getting us back into basically zooming back into paying attention to him. And then I transitioned to this shot here where he's working in tandem with someone else. This is obviously an important part of what he does. He's not just working alone. There's another presence there, and obviously a younger person who he may be mentoring, or who is just an employee that he has. But it's kind of establishes a relationship, because up until this point, you can make the assumption that he's working largely alone and is doing all this stuff by himself. But this gives us a sense that, at times this craft is a collaboration, and there's action here. It's a good break from the static images that I've just shown you, where there isn't a lot happening. Now we're getting to see him at work. There's energy involved. There's concentration. There's attention to that detail, as well as all the wonderful things that we kind of expect from a photograph. Great lighting, great use of shadow detail, awesome framing, and the details on the face, the hat, the blurred background to create a strong relief between the sharpness of the subjects in the background, the tools in the foreground that end up framing these two figures in the frame, which is great. Then I jump into this shot, which is like near the end of the photo essay, which really demonstrate the effort and the concentration and the energy that's involved in doing some of the work. I mean, this is just a great shot. And I've been using all the photos before this to sort of build to this photograph, because for me, this is like the climax shot of this photo essay. Here he is, just fully determined, using all his skill, all his strength, all his energy in order to repair this device. And it adds a lovely bit of drama. It's just like any narrative, like any story. You're slowly building up to a moment in time. And in this case, we're using photographs in order to achieve that. As a singular photograph, it's a great standout, but I'm hoping that by selecting the images that I have so far, that by the time we get to this, we're not only curious about who he is and what he does, but we're also getting more involved in how he does his thing. And I think this image is just great, and it really works well. If we didn't have this image here, I think that the photo essay as a whole would be really, really kind of weak, because it just might be otherwise a collection of close-up shots of his hands, of his face, of the tools. but there would be no there. And having a shot like this is so critical to making this a real effective piece. I chose this next shot as sort of a build down. Obviously, he's still working on it, but it's not always work for everybody there. I like the sort of casualness of his assistant behind him reading a newspaper. I would have loved to have seen some more social interaction between the two of them when they weren't actually working, like maybe joking around or having some coffee or doing something where I get to see him away from his work, from him actually being dedicated to repairing it. That's always something that I'm keeping an eye out for when I'm doing a story that involves someone in the practice of doing something. I'm looking for those moments that aren't directly related to the task. That stuff is going to give me a much broader characterization of the person beyond what they do for a living or what they do for an art. This is about as close as I get to that. And then the last picture is just a picture where he's sort of just gazing out the window at, and we don't know what, but it's kind of like a nice counterpoint to all the other images that we've seen before, where he's sort of busy at work, where he's doing all this concentration, all this physical labor to make something happen, and then this ends up being like a really nice closer. So this is what I like to think about when I am dedicated to doing a photo story. I'm working on a project that's going to allow me to do exactly this kind of shooting, and I'm really excited about it because it takes me away from having to make that one great singular shot. And I think that whether you're on vacation or whether you're photographing a friend that you know repairing something or playing a guitar, or even if you have a situation where you can just linger with someone. It could be on vacation. It could be even a barbecue where you're going to focus on the person who is the host doing everything he has to do to prepare for the barbecue, to make the barbecue, to deliver the food on the plates to everyone to consume. That's another opportunity to tell a story. Stories are around us all the time, so you don't necessarily have to go to an exotic location or go to someone's workplace. Sometimes the everyday interactions in our lives provide us a wonderful opportunity to do just that. So if I can encourage you guys to go out there and try and tell your own stories with your cameras, you'll find yourselves being really excited by what you can say and express with your camera. So I want to thank Eric for contributing these great images to the site and providing me to do something really different with this week's video. So, as I said, if you're watching these videos and you are contributing to the Flickr group, please do. And you can do that by just going to doing a search in this search field over here for the Candid Frame, and it'll take you to us and just ask to be added, and I'll do just that and just upload your great photographs. And if you're listening to this or watching this video for the first time and you've not listened to the Candid Frame, I strongly suggest that you visit us at thecandidframe.com and start listening to the great conversations that I have there for you. They feature conversations with some of the world's best established and emerging photographers, and regardless of what genre of photography you're interested in, I guarantee you're going to find something there that's going to excite you and inspire you. So that's it for me this week. See you next time.